Unlocking the Art of Grieving, the truth about loss and the harm of misconceptions. After years of supporting clients through experiences of loss and grief, while also navigating significant losses in my own life, I've come to view grieving as an art that we must master to live a fulfilling life. In American culture, and cultures influenced by our values, much of what people are taught about grief is likely untrue or at least misleading, causing great suffering. The woman who was unable to grieve had experienced a similar situation. The conversation took place online after I spoke about the art of grieving during a recent presentation. An elderly woman spoke up and said matter-of-factly, "I've never done that. I've never grieved." Given her age, I asked her to elaborate. She recounted situations where, in her mind, she had not grieved. When her parents died, she was living far away and not involved in much of the process. Her siblings handled everything. With her first husband, they had divorced before his death. With her second husband, who had a previous family and no children with her, his first family took over everything after his death. She attended the funerals but nothing more. "There's a term for that," I told her. "It's called disenfranchised grief. It sounds like you were treated as though your grief didn't matter since you weren't close to your parents when they died and were divorced or a second wife. I see that you missed out on a lot by not being able to grieve with members of your community." Once her grief was validated, she continued to name other losses, including a brother who was estranged from the family and died by suicide. "There are a couple of names for that," I said. "Losing a sibling doesn't have a specific name like orphan or widow, In Sanskrit, there's a word for it that means it goes against the natural order of things. Losing a sibling, who is genetically closest to you and shares significant memories from childhood, is a loss that others who haven't experienced it don't fully understand. I would call this traumatic grief, which you have experienced on 2 counts. Your brother's estrangement was a significant loss, and his suicide was another occasion full of taboo. These are losses that are often not spoken of, and it's hard to grieve something we can't talk about." As we discussed the idea that we need to grieve things we're discouraged from talking about, the woman shared another loss. Her daughter hadn't spoken to her in 2 years, and she didn't know why or what she had done. "It's not in the grief literature," I told her. "But the younger generation calls it ghosting, and I think it can be unkind or even cruel." By sharing her experiences with me, she had the chance to express her grief through storytelling, an art form for grieving. As we ended the call, she thanked me and said, "Thank you for giving me to me." At that moment, I didn't get the opportunity to express my sympathy, but I would like to do it now by saying, I regret the multiple losses you have suffered, and particularly the additional losses you experienced as a result of not receiving support while coping with them.